Mike Tyson is one of the most notorious athletes to ever jump into a boxing ring, so it should come as no surprise that he bought a cursed, abandoned mansion that eventually became a church. It's 1988, and Mike Tyson's Ohio estate very much just dropped into his lap. He purchased it from a sheriff's auction for $300,000. It has 6 beds and 7.5 bathrooms stretched out over 22,000 square feet. He then added in wonderful amenities like a marble master bathroom and a giant whirlpool. It's a gorgeous estate removed from the world in the woods, where snow can paint across the magnificent stonework exterior and the surrounding grounds. Tyson was able to find a suitable celebrity for his Ohio estate. In 1999, he sold it to Tybo's Paul Mong, who picked it up for $1.3 million during Tybo's peak. In 2007, he was then sentenced to 13 years of federal prison for money laundering. This will become a bit of a trend, you'll see. The mansion was then left to rot for over a decade. The year is now 2015, and it is now a gated home that stands abandoned. The party pad has been left for decades with a dried-up pool, an empty echo through the formerly packed living spaces, and the empty marble jacuzzi with the anarchy symbol spray-painted in the bottom, revealed in the mirrored reflection above. It was then purchased by an unnamed buyer for $600,000. That was then donated to the Living Word Sanctuary, who had to pay off $50,000 in back taxes. While it was estimated to cost well over $7 million to rebuild, the church was able to convert it with a small fraction of that cost. Huge living rooms were turned into worship spaces, guest bedrooms were turned into kids' rooms, and the back patio area was landscaped for future weddings. It is nowhere near as extravagant as its days owned by Tyson, but the church's minimalist, less is more strategy has really paid off. When he first bought the home, it was good to be Mike Tyson. The boxer took down Trevor Berbick with a second-round knockout that made him the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. He also walked away with a cool $1.5 million, while his opponent got $700,000 for getting his clock cleaned by Iron Mike. The rise just keeps going from there. Tyson would go on to remain undefeated for years, earning 10, then 20, and then 30 million for each showdown in the ring. All this success truly started to add up, and Tyson wound up earning $300 million on the fights alone. So naturally, you buy as many enormous mansions as you can, even if they're cursed. If horror movies have taught us anything, it's that the best way to break a house's curse is with a priest. It's basically the entire premise of the Conjuring franchise, so if a priest could get rid of a home's curse, what about a church? After hearing about his other cursed house, I'm not so sure. It's 2015, and his other estate in Connecticut is adorned with giant posters of a famous rapper and an enormous room with no buyers walking through. Both of these accursed homes ruined the lives of nearly everyone who tried to live there, starting with one of the greatest boxers of all time. Back in the 80s, this property reportedly held many giant parties, including star-studded birthday bashes with over 700 celebrities, after parties, and I'm sure parties just because it was Tuesday, and why not? It even briefly housed his white tiger worth $700,000. Yes, the hangover didn't lie. Tyson actually did own a tiger. In fact, he owned 3, and was rumored to have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on pigeons. The Connecticut estate stretches out over 50,000 square feet with a whopping 19 bedrooms and 25 bathrooms. As far as amenities go, even by ludicrous celebrity standards, it is decadent. An indoor nightclub, a casino, a home theater, a billiards parlor, a helicopter pad, an indoor and outdoor pool, an indoor and outdoor basketball court, and much, much more. It's about as classy a party pad as money can buy. A beautiful white and red color scheme, a breathtaking veranda around back, and a perfectly manicured lawn all make this into a masterpiece. Then once you step inside, you see the marble floors that lead to twin spiral staircases that really top the place off. If you're gonna buy a home that shows just how ludicrously rich you are, this is the home to buy. So if both of these homes really did see the peak of Tyson's decadence, what happened? On June 11, 2005, Tyson gave one of his most surprising bouts of all time. For the guy who once bit off Evander Holyfield's ear, that's truly saying something. During the 7th round against Kevin McBride, Tyson seemed to actually give up the fight. Prison stints, controversies, divorces, and the destruction of his reputation had taken a toll. His physical and mental exhaustion with boxing was on full display. It was clear that Iron Mike wasn't so iron anymore. Years later, he would admit that he was far from his best and never thought he had a chance of winning. That he'd done the whole match for the payday. So how much of a payday would it take for Tyson to humiliate himself like that? Evidently, it was around $30 million. For someone who's made over $300 million and still had a pretty massive endorsement deal, is $30 mil really worth further tarnishing a legacy? Well, Tyson's body was pretty far from its peak, and so was his bank account. He had dropped all the way into bankruptcy. It was reported that he was over $23 million in debt. So how exactly do you burn through that kind of cash? Well, the rumors paint a picture of a celebrity with absolutely no control over his ego or his wallet. That includes dropping tens of millions on cars he never drove and houses he didn't live in. There's even a story about Tyson flaunting his wealth by walking into a BMW dealership and buying every car on the lot. Once all this debt landed on Tyson's head, it was a real knockout. He went from being one of the greatest legends in sports history to being a sad has-been who spent his days feeding hundreds of pigeons in his Paradise Valley, Arizona home. This is exactly the kind of mind frame a man has when he utterly abandons his mansions he can't afford upkeep on anymore. You see, people buy these giant houses without realizing that they require a full staff of people to both run and maintain. They aren't one-time purchases you make when things are hot. They're investments that you will have to keep up with for the rest of your life. You know, unless you can pawn it off on someone else. For that, he found another star on the rise and dropped at least one of the properties for over $4 million. That star was known as Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent. Back in 1985, a year before Tyson would punch his way into sports history, this estate was actually built for Benjamin Sisti, the founder of the Colonial Realty Company. 10 years later, he was convicted of fraud in what was called the biggest real estate scandal in Connecticut history. The curse of this place appears to be very, very real, but 50 Cent had no idea once he picked up the keys from Tyson in 2003. It seemed like the place was going to be his lucky charm. The signs were all there. It was at 50 Poplar Hill Drive, was over 50,000 square feet, and had well over 50 rooms. If that's not a sign for 50 Cent, what is? 50 Cent was literally so successful that he had to buy a $4 million pad for the expenses. He then showed off his purchase on Cribs, where he demonstrated a few of his additions, like the basement stripper poles and the recording studio. His career featured the exact same kind of success as Tyson's, with a fortune in the realm of $100 million. In 2015, though, the curse had claimed its next victim. Decadent spending and tax evasion had driven Jackson into bankruptcy as well, with over $20 million of debt. So it obviously came time to sell this mansion once more. Only it wasn't as easy to sell the largest house in the Northeast as he thought. The neighbors actually considered it to be a garish eyesore, one that Jackson had not occupied or maintained in years, just like Tyson before him. He originally tried to put it on the market for close to $18.5 million, but it became pretty clear pretty fast that he wouldn't get that. After 12 long years on the market, the desolated space sold for less than 80% of what he wanted. It sold for $2.9 million, far less than even what he paid Tyson. The house went to Florida entrepreneur and aspiring politician Casey Asker, who purchased the home and then failed to win a race for Florida's 19th congressional district shortly thereafter. Did these curses ever let up? It does seem like both of the curses may, in fact, be broken. Tyson is back in the ring and has resurrected his bank account to the tune of $10 million. 50 Cent is making all kinds of money on the 300 spin-offs to his hit show Power, which has gotten him back up to $52 million. Though I kind of think he should spend that $2 million, you know what I mean? 50 million is a much better number. So the curse may be gone, but the new church's front gate still has the name Mike Tyson scrawled upon it, a permanent relic of a time long, long past. If a home has had a violent crime, they're supposed to knock off like 15 to 25% of the price. How much do they knock off for curses?